Okay, so Matt, since you don't have the minuet in front of you, I will play a little. I know I played this before just to give people an idea. This is what we're going to be doing. I will play the 8 measures we're going to do over the next couple classes. That's what we're going to do. And we're going to work through it step by step. We couldn't really start working on it until we got to these pages in the book 113 and 115, because this is where you get the notes with the key signature, the F sharp. So Can on 113 covers notes in this piece, especially, well, the one thing it does in the very beginning is it starts introducing shifting your hand. Sometimes you lift your hand and replay a note with a different finger. You work your hand into a different position. You need to be able to do that to play piano and to play the song. And then at the end of line 2, the G major scale with that F sharp is part of the song. The song actually, part of the melody is a scale. But we don't really need that now, because everything we need that you folks don't have is right here on page 115. So if we look at the facing page, it's talking about writing in the key of G major. People can do that if they want. That's not something I really focus on. If you do it and have a question, I'm happy to address that. But because the class is really playing piano, not a theory class, I try to focus more on the theory that's actually related to the playing, like playing the scale and noticing how it comes up in music. So at the top of page 115, there's a little bit of, it's kind of review and kind of new, primary chords in G major, but they're a little different. Instead of that position that we've done where your hand starts on a chord and you kind of shift a couple fingers, you're actually going to be moving here. The G chord is the root position, but instead of playing the C by moving 2 fingers, the example at the top actually has you shift your hand like we did in Cockles and Mussels. So the point here is that chords can be played in different ways, and it's really good to know different ways to do them. So once you get under that example, they just show the chords how we've done them before. So playing the chords in this song is super simple. So I went over this before. I talked about the fingering change. I'm going to do that really briefly. I'm going to focus more on the second line that relates to the minuet. So if we look at the beginning of the song, let's just look at right hand. Suddenly you start shifting your fingers and your hand position is going to change. Now your hand is up higher. I'm looking over there. I think that angle is probably the best angle I can get for showing the keys. And you need to do that because you need to get used to doing that, to following notes and playing with a different finger. But we're going to look at line 2. For line 2, you start at the top, high G, F sharp, so if we kind of analyze what are the notes here, it's 5 notes. Your hand is in a kind of like a 5-note position, but your forefinger is on that F sharp. And the sound is just not like the 5-finger positions we've played because it's a different part of the scale. But we need this position for the minuet in G. So I always like to compare the beginning of line 2 with measure 3 in the minuet. Now, what's measure 3 if you don't have it? This is measure 2. This is measure 3. my hand, since you can't see it right now because you're not looking at this page, my hand is going to be in the exact same position as line 2 of Marine's hymn. And then I stretch down the octave. So we actually did an octave shift in this piece at the end of line 1 into 2. And in Can Can, we did it as well. So we're going to put this aside. I'm going to actually turn the page so I don't forget this that I want to do. But we're going to look at how you would get started in Minuet in G. I'm going to focus on 4 measures right hand. I'm going to play it slowly, then I'll break it down a little bit. So I'm in that G position. At this point, you either move your hand or just reach up. Now your hand's in that position. Once you reach over and relax your thumb, because you're stretching, and once you relax your thumb will kind of come and join your hand. It will shift your hand up. So if we put that with 2 hands, so that's the amount that I want people to try as a start. Some people are going to be able to do more than that, but that much, working on 4 measures, is going to just keep you moving along. Let's look at the left hand. It's a G chord, then single notes. That's 4 measures. That matches the section, but you can look at the page, it walks down. So that's what happens in the left hand there. In the second line, we're only going to play a few measures, but they're going to be the most challenging measures. We're not going to look at those today. Now, I am going to play a little bit after the part that I want you to focus on, just in case people can take a look at that if you have time. Let's start by, I'll play the 4 measures again. I either move or reach. I reach way down, and my hand kind of follows. Now then we have a pattern that repeats. So that's a pattern that repeats as 2 times the same. So we can say it's a pattern that repeats, or we can say it's played twice, or it's that actually wouldn't be right. It's a pattern that is played twice. The pattern is played twice. Your hand shifts to a different note. So it's not exactly the same, but your hand does the same thing. Virtually the same thing. Because your hand shifts down, the very first note is going to be a different finger. So we're going to hear something that's almost the same pattern, but it's slightly different. Rhythm's the same. But lots of times in music, when you have a pattern that repeats, maybe it repeats exactly the same, but often it repeats on a different note. Often it's 1 note up, or 2 notes up, or 1 note down, or 2 notes down, but your ear really hears that as a repeat. And often, which is kind of interesting, the 3rd one is varied. That's lots of theories about that. The way we hear things, we hear something that's the same, we recognize it, that makes us feel good. So that's why, I don't know, that's why it's appealing, and that's why composers do it. But if we hear the precise same thing too many times in a row, it gets boring. So for example, let me do the same pattern that starts this. Let me repeat that exactly. That is not as satisfying. So what I'd like people to do is work on especially the right hand 4 measures. Take a look at the left hand. It's not that hard. If you can do more, great. So we're going to put that aside, and I'm going to play one more thing from the book. I believe I started this a little bit. At the top of the page, we have syncopated note. Depends if you play this in a swing feel or straight eighths. But that note, that eighth note that's tied to a half note, that's called syncopated. It shifts the rhythm. We have the same thing in one of our final choices. That last one, that's syncopated. The accent just kind of comes early, and it kind of pushes a little energy into the music. So why am I blue? This is a blues song. The left hand has nothing but standard chords in the G position. Right hand, this repeats, but I'm going to skip to the second ending. So this is another one of those blues songs that generally in the class I would do a little bit of, give people an option. There would be all these different blues songs. You could maybe try a little of everything and focus on the ones you like. I'm not going to do more than that now. If anybody is interested in working on that more, let me know. So that